Welcome to day 1 of 21-day SQL Query Challenge. This is question 2 of day 1. We'll be solving 5 queries every day, and by the end of 21 days, we'll be solving 21 into 5, which is around 105 SQL queries, which will definitely help you crack any interview. So let's get into this question. So this question is taken from Leet Code, and it is to find customer referee. So this has a table called customers, and the table contains 3 different columns. The first one is ID, which is an integer data type, and it is the primary key of this table. And the next one is name, which is varchar, which means it is a string type of column. And then there is referee ID, which is an integer again. Now, if you look at this table, you will get a clear idea about how the table is. So there is ID, which is basically the IDs or primary keys of the table. And then each ID has a name, person's name, which is given in the next column, and referee ID is the ID of the person who referred. So you can see that there is integer values and null values. What does that mean? Let's take this ID 3, whose name is Alex, right? And Alex, if you see, is referred by a referee ID 2, which means if you look at ID 2, it is Jane, and Jane has referred Alex. But if you take Jane is referred by null, which means the person might be referred or might not be referred, but definitely it is not referred by any people which is there in the table. If it was referred by a person in the table, then their referee ID should be there, right? So here it is null, which means that none of the customers, these names are basically the names of the customer, so none of the customers have referred Jane. Okay, this is what null means. Now let us look at the question. Find the names of the customer that are either referred by any customer with ID not equal to 2 or not referred by any customer. So let's again go with the 3 steps that you need to write the query. So first step is what you need to display or execute. So over here, if you read, you can clearly say that the question says find the names of the customer. So you have to fetch or get the names of the customer. So from where do we get the names? From the column name, right? So here we won't be using delete or create, because that is not what the question says. The question says to find or get. So we will use the select statement and we will use the column name. Next, we will directly go to the third step, which is what is the condition. So is there any condition? Yes, there are 2 conditions, that the customers are either referred by customer with ID not equal to 2. So it is either, which means either this or that. So it is not and, it is any of these. Okay, so there are 2 conditions. One is ID should not be equal to 2, referee ID should not be equal to 2, and it should not be referred by any customer, right? So there is 2 condition. First is, the referee ID should not be equal to 2, or what is the second condition? Not referred by any customer. So how will we know that it is not referred by a customer? When the referee ID is null, we can say that none of the person having a ID in the column has referred the person, or basically this person is not referred by a customer. Okay, so referee ID is null. If the referee ID is null, it means that it is not referred by a customer, and and there is one more condition, that referee ID should not be equal to 2. And let's go to the final step, which is step 2. Where is this data? So if you look at all the column names, that is name, referee ID, all these belong to one table, which is customers. So where do we get this data from? We get it from customer. Since all these are present in one table, we don't have to use join function. Okay, so since we have got all the required details of the step, we'll directly go and write the query. So first we'll start with the first step, that is select. Okay, select. What we have to select? Select the name. We won't be using delete or create because the question is asking us to fetch the names, not delete or to create anything. Okay, so we select name, and where do we select it from? We select it from the table customer. And then what is the condition? There are two conditions. So whenever we are writing condition, we use where clause or group by. Since there is no grouping required, we will only use where clause. Okay, where what and all is required? Referee ID should not be equal to 2, or the referee ID should be null. So whenever null is present, we use is null. Okay, we won't use equal to sign. So let's run this and see. Yes, so we got this correct. I hope you understood this. The point to be noted here is that when it is either, you use or in where clause, and if both the conditions are to be satisfied, we use and whenever we are using null, or when we have to fetch null values, we will use is null and not equal to null. Okay, we won't write it as id equal to null. We won't do this. This is wrong. Okay, this is wrong. We will use is null. I hope this video was helpful and you were able to understand how to solve this question. Next, we will do question number 3 of day 1. Thank you.